swarming into different areas and then spreading out sporadically throughout Union Square Park. But look, imagine what it would be like if you were in this car and you were trying to travel south on the east side of Union Square and you are just swarmed by people. So if you can avoid this area, do it at all costs. This is a dangerous situation with people that are completely out of control. Reporting live over Union Square Park, Shannon Sohn, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Shannon, we do want to stay with you for a few minutes. We understand that Kai Cenat is actually live streaming on Instagram from the center of that crowd down there, which is probably why we saw all of a sudden that crowd suddenly converge when we went to you at the top of our show. But we have been seeing for the better part of about a half hour, 40 minutes, we think that's him in the bright green all the way in the center there. But that is a very dangerous situation, considering how many people there and the force of that crowd moving along. And you can see he is kind of encouraging them.
Yeah, you know, he's encouraging them, and I'm a little bit worried about all of this in general, because before he even got here, the crowd was really converging on each other, and it would break out into a bit of a fight. Every time a crowd got really close to each other, things would start to get thrown, they would back away, and then they would come back together again. Now, regardless of what's happening here, he's saying he's giving away PlayStations. I doubt he has PlayStations for all these people, if he has any at all. So what's going to happen when 1 or 2 or 10, I don't know how many he's giving away, but however many he's giving away are given away, and people are going away empty-handed. That's also going to be another factor in this. But anytime you get a crowd together like this, where it's not planned really far in advance and something big is happening, they're getting downright rowdy down below, and there's just not enough police officers to control the crowd. And what you see, like, you're right, I think that is him right in the middle of your picture, but we've seen this happen several times. We're just going to bring the camera out for a minute. You see him, and you're right, streaming on social media, you see his arm going up with his phone, but you've got another crowd off to the right side. So they might be wondering where he is, if he's even there yet. But this is an enormous crowd and just not nearly as many police officers as there are people here in Union Square.
And we should probably mention one of the reasons there's likely not more police officers on site is because they had no idea this was not a planned event. I mean, unless you were on social media paying attention to his post, they would know about this. And I suppose what they're doing now is trying to block that traffic on 14th Street, and then they didn't have an opportunity to do so over there. I think that's Park Avenue South that runs along the eastern side of Union Square there. So, Shannon, the suggestion to anyone that's going to be traveling through that part of Manhattan, oh, and these are pictures on the ground we're looking at right now, the rowdy crowd. We said earlier that their interaction with police was not what you would like to see. They appear to be throwing objects at the officers that are on the scene. The challenge right now is to try and get a hold of that crowd, get some control of that crowd, and make some sense of it.
Right. And you could see the police were really overwhelmed in those moments as they were throwing things at them, and you could see police retreat. The interesting thing, and the question I think many people are wondering now, is what is police strategy going to be right now in terms of trying to control this unwieldy crowd that they were caught off guard. It's clearly not a permitted event that they were able to prepare for. This is something that it's like a flash mob that just suddenly appeared.
Yeah, this literally looks like a flash mob here, and I just want to show you, before, just a few minutes ago, we showed you those cars parked, or actually not parked, they are trying to get through Union Square East, and now not only are they stopped, which is what we showed you before, but now there are people actually standing on top of those cars. So these are people that were caught literally, as you said, in a flash mob, and now people are standing on their cars, and this is exactly the kind of thing that police officers are trying to gain control of, because this has just become a dangerous situation at this point. And as this crowd really starts to come around Kai Cenat, you're going to see that this crowd off to the right side is going to start to merge in with that crowd in the middle. And all of that is happening on the southeast side of Union Square Park. So that's 14th Street here in the middle of your picture. And all of these cars were just trying to cross over 14th Street. Now, as much as police have been overwhelmed, we've also caught glimpses of them trying to sort of soothe people that sort of got stuck in the middle of this. We saw one police officer trying to guide a bicyclist through this to get him out of harm's way, while all the while some people in the crowd were throwing water bottles and buckets at the police officers. But imagine what this must feel like. You were traveling south going towards East 14th Street, and people are now standing on the top of your car trying to get a better look at Kai Cenat for what, again, you mentioned was an unplanned event that attracted thousands and thousands and thousands of people, with police officers not at the ready for something like this to happen.
So, Shannon, I have to ask you, considering the size of this crowd, and honestly, it appears to be growing there, and I did see more people tossing things at officers. What impact is this having on those streets and that traffic around there? Union Square, especially this time of the day, really busy.
Oh, it absolutely is, and it's basically stopped everything. We'll bring up Street Spotter 7 for you so you can get an idea. Union Square West is on the right side of your picture, Union Square East on the left side, and 14th Street now completely shut down. Now, I don't think that police have the capacity at this point to even close the traffic further north here, so I'm going to just bring you down. And we'll look at it together actually for the first time. I don't think they've managed to close the streets because all of their attention right now is focused on the crowd control. So it's incumbent on you to know that this is happening and to try and stay away from it, because there are no closures here on Union Square East or Union Square West. Obviously 14th Street is closed with the people here, but police don't even have enough manpower at this point to close off the street. So the people who are stuck in that traffic further back, the best thing that they can do is veer off and stay away from this at all costs. Now, you do see people kind of walking through the area. Some of these people are just crowds that happen to have been in Union Square, and now they are stuck in, and I think the best term that you used for it was really a flash mob through this area. Every now and then you see them starting to fan out, but no matter how you look at it, there are just too many people here and not enough police officers. So 14th Street, for the foreseeable future, is going to be shut down because all police want to do at this point is gain control of the crowd. I think at this point, traffic is sort of secondary. Now, you can see the police officers here. When we first got on the scene, there were maybe 30 of them. Now, there are so many that it's hard to sort of discern them between the crowds of people and which ones are officers. Some of them are very obvious because they're setting up a perimeter and trying to keep people away, but at points, there are police officers in the middle of the crowd as well. So an interesting situation for sure, with thousands and thousands of people. We estimated about 8,000 people here. That's a rough estimate, and I feel like you said, it is growing by the second, and especially when you look at Union Square East and you look at these cars. I mean, we showed you this maybe 10, 15 minutes ago. It's almost hard to make out the cars now because people are climbing on top of them, and I'm sure police... Right. I'm sure police are getting phone calls from these people that are stuck in these cars, and now they're jumping from one vehicle to another. It has to be terrifying to be down there if that's not what you wanted to do. Now, I think we've got some tape that we can show you from earlier, before Kai Cenat arrived on the scene. So I'm hoping they'll be able to roll that for you, but we're going to show you where this was taken. Right in this area of Union Square Park, you can sort of see on the ground, there's paint splatter everywhere. Now it's really being covered up by crowds, but crowds were like merging in on each other and literally throwing bottles and buckets, and it looked like a total mess here. That people, it was, and now, and I want to bring you back to these live pictures to show you. I told you earlier at the subway station there were people up on the roof. Police were able to clear that for a little while, but now they are going back up. Originally, they were using a ladder. Now they've got people up on the roof, and they're holding out hands for other people and just pulling them up onto the roof of the subway station at 14th and Union Square. So they did manage to get the ladder away from them, and presumably that ladder was there for the construction happening in this area. But the crowds are trying to get up on the roofs of this. They're trying to get up onto the statue over here. Now, a few minutes ago, we showed you the statue, and the crowd was gathered around this. Now we've got some people up on the statue, but a lot of that crowd has dispersed. So it is moving around a bit, but it is also filling in, which is just a scary prospect here. Again, police aviation overhead trying to get a handle on this too, and trying to position police officers where they need them. But I keep being drawn back to this picture here, where people were trying just to get through traffic, and now people climbing on top of their cars to the point where you almost can't see the vehicles.
Yes, Shannon, we are getting some information now that 6 trains are right now bypassing the 14th Street Union Square station in both directions, obviously in deference to what's going on there. And you mentioned that where we saw the people up on the roof there, that has been under construction. So that added danger of what has been a construction area for weeks now. That's that big entrance to the train station right there in Union Square Park. Probably why they were able to find a ladder around there. And I'm assuming the workers, once they started seeing the crowds and stuff, kind of dispersed themselves.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. And you're seeing right here an arrest being made by police officers. But look at the chairs that are strewn about. So chairs were being thrown. They're trying to put up barricades. But as people try to get through those barricades, police are now making arrests through this area. And we talked about that gazebo over the 14th Street station. You know, it's under construction. That's a fear in and of itself. But it's not intended to hold human body weight on top of it. That's not its purpose. So this is a whole nother problem that could evolve because of this completely chaotic crowd. I mean, that is literally the only way to describe a crowd like this. And they're all looking for something free. Who knows if they're going to get it at the end, and who knows what that is going to look like when this is all said and done.
Right. And Shannon, even though we had heard that Kai Cenat had been streaming live from down in that crowd, at this point, we don't even know if he's still down there, do we?
No, we don't. You know, I'm trying to look for that green shirt again, and the crowd is just so thick. It's hard to make it out. So we genuinely don't know. But how he would get out of this crowd at this point is a question as well. I can't even imagine how he would work his way out. I don't even think police officers would be able to get to him to help him out if that's what he needed at this point. It is just a mob scene down below.
Right, and it does not seem like he walked into that crowd with his own private security who could potentially help him navigate his way out of that situation. We are starting to hear that there have been some NYPD officers who have suffered some injuries. We have no idea at this point the extent of those injuries. I would imagine, considering the atmosphere down there, that we are going to start to hear about injuries. Police as well as those who are there in the crowd.
Oh, I would absolutely think so. But you can see things have certainly changed on the police front. You were looking down at 14th Street now, and you see the line of officers here, where when we first arrived on the scene and officers were first arriving on the scene, what we saw was truly remarkable. You saw a group of officers, maybe 10 or 15, and they were actually holding plywood over their heads. And they actually took cover behind some of the cars that were stuck on 14th Street as the crowd approached them, throwing things at them. I mean, it was something I've not seen before. It's like they had absolutely no fear, and the police officers, really not prepared for it, were forced to retreat. But now it looks like they've got sort of a human barricade up along 14th Street on the south
side
to get
some
Union
order.
Square. Yeah, they're trying to get some sort of order here, but there's significantly more police presence now, and it does look like they're starting to get a handle. I think they started to arrest people. Maybe that made a difference, but they're starting to get a handle. And again, they've got the advantage of police aviation overhead that can tell them where they need to be. But again, I keep being drawn back to these cars. The first few cars here have now virtually disappeared in this group of cameras. So clearly,
I mean, and there are 2 rows of cars there, it appears, that now just have a mob of people sitting on top of them.
You know, Chief of
we'll
Department.
show it to you with Street Spotter 7 here. We can actually highlight it for you. That's a car there. It looks like it's just people, but there's actually a car under there.
Among those who have been on the scene for a while now is Chief of Department Jeffrey Madry. So you got to believe that reinforcements are pouring in there. We see that with the officers now lining 14th Street there. They're going to need a whole lot more officers if there are any hopes of trying to bring some order to this situation. Although it appears they've moved out of the park, that's
and
that really open space,
down
to the street.
towards the street.
Yeah, they seem to be moving, but we've seen this happen a few times before since we've been over the scene. Again, we've been here for probably 45 minutes now, and for a while, it almost seems like a pack mentality where someone sees someone move and they run aggressively in a direction, and a whole group of them run with them. So it might not actually mean anything. We were watching some go from the south side of Union Square Park. I keep saying Central Park. From Union Square Park, and they were running towards the north, and then they would just sort of double back and head back into the fray. So I'm not sure if it's a mob mentality where you see people going and you think that you must be intended to go in that direction as well, but that's what we're seeing again going down Broadway here. They're literally just moving along, not quite sure what's on the other side of that. I'm actually going to see if Captain Randy can move a little bit to the right for me so that we can look down the street a little bit and see what's causing this.
But we see them dispersing and moving.
Running down the street there.
I mean, I got to believe for a lot. Go ahead, Shannon.
Go ahead. Yeah, this is something we've been seeing where they'll run aggressively in a direction, and it just seems like some people see them running and they're like, well, we should do that too, and then they all just sort of come back. So we're not quite sure what is causing them to do that, but we've been seeing this in various different directions throughout this last 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, you got to believe for a lot of these people down here, a lot of them really young people, it's a happening. They've come perhaps to get some free stuff, but I think they're part of a happening now. Eyewitness News reporter Stefan Kim is standing by with more. Stefan, where are you right now?
Well, Sandra, as you can see, I am standing next to the Union Square subway station entrance where it looks like it was closed off because of construction. But look up on top of that. That's what's happening on top of the subway station entrance. There's, I can't even count, countless people up on top of there. They're climbing it right now, as you can see. In fact, if you can pan to your left, they're actually on top of the statue here at Union Square. I've actually got a couple of his followers here with me who can kind of explain to us what they were expecting, what happened. Young man, give me your name real quick and tell me why you came out here, what you expected to happen, what did happen.
All right, my name is Dilakwan Tavius. So basically, it's a Kai Cenat, Phantom, all of the AMP members. Oh, I don't know about all of them, but they pulled up, do a little meet and greet and a giveaway for the fans.
Giveaway of what was the understanding?
So, from my understanding, PS5s, video game accessories, PCs, but I don't think they will actually give away an actual PC because how is somebody going to carry that? So I'm pretty sure it's gift cards for them to then go and get the P5 themselves.
So, safe to assume that you, along with your friends, came out here thinking that you would get some freebies, is that correct?
Not that we're thinking, but there's a chance to because, there's so many people and there's only so much you could give.
Has any of that happened? Is he here?
He's here right now, yeah, and they were giving out, but people are being people. There's so many people here, people are pushing around, so you can't really get it organized.
Okay, and before we came on, you were telling me that, in your own words, that some people out here were bugging out. Explain to me what you saw, what you meant by that.
Bugging out, like you can see, there's no excuse, obviously, for what happened, but, stuff like that just happens all the time. People being reckless. It's New York City. Stuff like this happens every day. Well, I wouldn't say every day, but you know what I'm saying?
Well, thank you and be safe. As you can see, Sandra, we've also heard and seen incidents of construction equipment behind me. I'm going to show you one live look, last live look again of what's happening here. Construction equipment being tossed around. We saw smoke. I'm not sure if that was a fire or some kind of smoke bomb. Again, this was all sparked by a Twitch streamer, a social media influencer. He has 20 million followers. He asked them all to come meet him here at Union Square for what was a PlayStation 5 giveaway at 4 o'clock. Apparently, we're also hearing that people showed up only to find out there were no freebies. And as you heard, he is here. At one moment, he was live streaming streaming in a van nearby, but he did step out. As you heard, he's out here greeting his fans. We even observed Chief of Department Madry out here having objects thrown at him. Cops are obviously outnumbered out here. They're standing back for the most part. We're hearing that there are officers who have been injured. Unclear at this hour the extent and severity of the injuries. But, you know, we're also seeing paint left over from this construction project near this entrance that's been tossed around and vandalized. Some of the equipment at the entrance here. As we made our way towards this area, there are many, many streets around here closed. Police officers, we noticed, closed off traffic as high as 20th Street. Trains are skipping this subway station now, so police are asking everyone to avoid this area. But as you can see, there is a large crowd here. We're hearing estimates of thousands and thousands of people who showed up, and clearly NYPD is vastly outnumbered in the situation.
Stefan, I don't want to interrupt you for one quick second right now, because you're looking at live pictures of a car that was literally covered with people, and we do believe that that was the vehicle that had Kai Cenat in it, which you can see now looked as though could have been leaving the area. That is why you're seeing that crowd there chase after.
That's it.
That's the vehicle right there that they believe Kai Cenat is in right now. As Stefan was saying, he was there. He was in the crowd for a little bit of time, but clearly this was an out-of-control crowd, and no freebies given away, no giveaway whatsoever getting in the car. But clearly you're looking at a very dangerous situation with this car now driving pretty fast with those people clinging on to the side and top of it.
It's mind-boggling.
It's mind-boggling why they're not stopping to let these people off the car. And and then someone fell off. Okay, joining us now is Bob Boyce, former NYPD, to talk more about this situation. Bob, can you hear us? It's Liz Cho and Sandra Bookman.
I can, Liz. I can hear you.
Okay, we know you're on the phone. I don't know if you have an opportunity to see what's going on in Union Square, but talk to us a little bit about police procedure. Obviously, this was a situation that police were not expecting. So how is it that they start getting the upper hand in crowd control here?
So they call it a level 3 mobilization. That's citywide. So there's going to be cars from every precinct in the city coming there. They have to stage first, and they have to get together. Then they have to, at some point, go in and disperse the crowd. Now, someone should be on a bullhorn right now dispersing this crowd. I don't know if they're doing that yet, but that's usually what happens. Generally speaking, they'll bring in mounted to aid in that effect, and they'll start diffusing the crowd as best they can. It looks like you have an unruly mob right now, and they have to bring order to it. But citywide units are coming. In the meantime, they'll have to do with the best they can with what they have.
But how much of a challenge is this for law enforcement? Look, we've seen similar things on the Jersey Shore. Somebody sends out an announcement on social media that there's going to be a party. The next thing you know, you've got 3,000 people on a beach at 11 o'clock at night. This seems like a similar thing. We're giving away freebies in Union Square at 4 o'clock, and the next thing you know, 5,000 to 6,000 people show up. They're not getting the freebies, so they start acting out. How difficult is it for the department to get a handle on this and keep it from turning into a kind of free-for-all?
We've lost Bob Boyce. He's on the phone. We're going to try to reestablish our connection with him, because obviously there are a lot of questions. Oh, Bob is back. Bob, can you hear us?
I can.
Did you get any of that question? You know, these calls going out on social media, obviously, young people know it's out there. They got the message. They're showing up at 4 for something free. 5,000 other people show up. The police are sort of almost behind the 8 ball. How difficult is it for the department to keep track of these things and to try to bring some order to the situation and keep it from becoming a free-for-all like we've seen here in Union Square?
Intelligence.
All right.
Let us know when large gatherings are coming, and that's what's important to understand. You have to get out in front of this before it happens. Usually there's sneaker giveaways, whatever the case may be, a new product coming out. Generally speaking, we know what's going on within Manhattan South. This apparently was a little they got past it, and so now they have to deal with it by bringing resources immediately.
Do you think Kai Cenat, considering his posting on social media and urging of this gathering here so large and not going what appears to be the proper channels, will he be facing charges?
I would doubt the answer. He didn't really create this. It's his ability to bring people together, which is the issue. So it sounds like he's doing this in altruistic fashion, but I don't think there's criminal charges yet. We'll have to take a look further, but it doesn't appear that way to me now.
How has police strategy changed, I guess, in the last couple of years in terms of handling crowds like this? You know, when officers first get there and they come across what appears to be a very unwieldy crowd, what is their initial approach to try to calm things down?
Generally speaking, you immediately call for help, and you would call the borough command, who would bring resources in. We have task forces who are trained in crowd control. This is not something we don't have, but you have to get them to the scene, and that's the hard part. You want to disperse without any more violence or any more action, but it sounds from what I'm hearing that some police officers have already been injured. So it looks like an escalation right now more than a diffusion.
Look, you've seen everything. You were with the department for decades. How surprised are you to see this pop up in the middle of a summer afternoon in Union Square Park, and honestly, police struggling to try to get a handle on it?
With the power of social media, it's not unusual, to be honest with you. You see it in other cities. We haven't had this in New York for the most part, flash mobs and that stuff. We're able to get out in front of this through intel assets to find out where this is going and go there first and kind of quell the situation and turn people away from that park, from that meeting area. That's the key here, is to get out in front of it initially. Apparently they didn't know about this influencer, and so this is what we have now. This will diffuse, but it'll take a couple hours to do so.
Really? You think it's going to take that long?
At least 2, because you have a lot of people there and they don't want to go home. And especially now that he's left. So and there's a real danger here, because you have gang issues, you have alcohol issues in the park. There are park regulations that you can make arrests for this. They're not there yet. But now you need some police leadership on the bullhorn, moving people out of there as fast as you can.
Yeah, we're looking at more live pictures right now from Newscopter 7. And Bob, like you said, we are now finally seeing a lot more police presence there. You can see them kind of lining the area almost shoulder to shoulder in certain parts. But this crowd, it keeps moving.
Yeah.
And you have these cars that are still stuck in the road with hundreds of people